What's going on, YouTube? JT's Reborn here, and welcome back to another edition of my DC comic book reviews. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about DC Horror Presents The Conjuring: The Lover, issue number 1 of 5. So I'm also covering the Conjuring films on my channel. I reviewed all the movies a while back, and The Conjuring: The Devil Made Me Do It is coming out tomorrow. And I also have a big ranking video I'm currently working on. But because there's a tie-in comic to the Conjuring franchise, which I am a fan of, I've seen every single film. I went ahead and rewatched all of them this past week, and I'm excited for it. And I'm also excited to read something a little bit different than what I'm kind of used to reading nowadays. I mean, I am a big horror movie fanatic, but I don't have very many horror comics that I own or I've really kind of delved into reading so much. Because when it comes to horror, I more so kind of watch it and because you can kind of craft suspense and do interesting things. Not to say there's anything wrong with the comics based around horror. I just haven't really gotten around to reading a lot of them. But I love horror, and this felt like a really refreshing read for me because, like I said, I'm so kind of used to reading I'm reading some kaiju comics, I'm reading some superhero comics, and after reading so much of kind of the same thing, it felt really nice to read something that was a little bit different, that's a tie into the Conjuring films. So let's go ahead and talk about this first thing. So there's several people who worked on these books. We had written by David L. Johnson-McGoldrick and Rex Ogle. There's also Tales from the Artifact Museum, The Ferryman, written by Scott Snyder, who's a famous DC Comics artist. So this is the first of 5 issues. I'm not sure if the Ferryman issue is just going to be a one and done thing, or if it's going to be part of there's just going to be various anthology stories as the backup for the Conjuring thing. But we have one of the Conjuring screenwriters writing the Lover number 1. I guess it's supposed to tie into the events of the movie. I haven't seen it yet, but I know the new movie is supposed to be about that whole court case where somebody claimed demonic possession as a defense. And we also have some evil cults that I guess are going to appear in it. So I think that's where the opening of this issue picks up. I'm going to try and keep spoilers vague for at least the second one before I get into them, because I actually like the kind of twist reveal at the end of the Scott Snyder storyline more so than the first storyline, because the first storyline is just kind of setting the stage for a couple issue arc going on here. So as it opens up, we see some weird, crazy, satanic type rituals. We see one of the girls there. It looks like she's being targeted for something, which we don't quite know. Here's this cult thing, and I think that's probably going to be the villain in the new Conjuring film, because usually there's some creepy spirit of sorts that haunts people. Like in the Conjuring 1, it was Bathsheba, and the Conjuring 2, obviously, it was Valak, who ended up getting a spin-off film in The Nun. That creepy, that creepy ass nun. In this one, I think this is probably going to be the villain in Conjuring 3, at least the way I think of it. I am disappointed James Wan isn't making Conjuring 3 though, because I wish he would have completed this trilogy. But we'll see what happens. So as our issue opens up, it's in Danvers, Connecticut, 1981. Our main character is a girl named Jessica, and her mom is dropping her off at college. She's mentioning somebody named Katie, who I'm not sure if it's her friend or her sister. I think it's her friend, but it's not fully specified. So anyway, she's going off to college. She's got failing grades, so she's got to kind of get her act together after all the stuff that happens. A boy shows up, a guy named Kyle, and the mom's like, "Ooh, who you been keeping secrets?" Her mom's just kind of embarrassing her, and she's just kind of a little bit annoyed. She goes into her dorm room with one of her roommates named Tammy, and just this guy named Roger is there. They're making out, and they kind of do their thing. And we also see some kind of horror scenes with Jess. She's kind of in the library doing her own thing. There's really some evil, malevolent presence going on here. You can see so in the artwork and such. She's also having sad times with her friend Katie, who I'm not sure if she's something else what happened with Katie. It's not made quite clear as of yet, but I'm sure we'll figure out as the storyline goes. But yeah, so she's just kind of doing her own thing, just kind of living the campus life, and something is following her throughout the issue, and it's haunting her, Jessica. So we'll see where that kind of goes. It's a very brief little storyline. The artwork is fine. Nothing truly mind blowing or anything like that. Nothing game changing in terms of the art, but I think it works for this kind of story, especially for kind of the shadows and the haunting images and such. I think it works fine in that regards. In terms of the first story, it's just a kind of a brief setup, just kind of getting you through the motions of things. There is some expositionary kind of dialogue, hey, it's 1981. get, even though we kind of had the little 1981 thing. It's just meant to kind of like, oh, you're always doing this, Jess, type deal. So it's a lot of expositionary stuff to kind of set the stage for the characters and that, which, it's fine. I can tolerate it. It's not the end of the world, but it felt refreshing to read something kind of like that. There's also a little ad going on here. So for every single issue in the Conjuring thing, so it's going to be, what is it? This like decoder ring that like depicts things. So I think it said something like the lover, the man of God, and the child, or something like that. I decoded it earlier, but I can't quite remember off the top of my head. But if you kind of zoom in here, you can kind of record it. So yeah, it's the man of God, the lover, and this one I think is the child. So that's all kind of tying into the events of the Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. So if you're interested in that, you can check out the decoder ring. I think it would have been funny if it said, "Be sure to drink your Ovaltine." So you got stuff like that. But now the really cool storyline was the one written by Scott Snyder, and Scott Snyder's written some really cool stuff for DC Comics, so I'm more familiar with his work than the other author on here. Although I did, see The Conjuring and that. But basically, the storyline here is about a man named Everett Mallor who feels responsible for all these deaths because when he was younger, he took a dare where he took like one of those like silver dollars out of somebody's mouth like, because if you don't, then the ferryman's going to take from you, and it's just going to kind of like follow you for the rest of your life. So if you steal the coin from a dead person's mouth, the ferryman will follow you until you give it back. So Everett, how bad do you want to be to our friend? So he took the coin and he used it to buy something, and that has basically haunted him for his entire life. Like, all the people around him catch up to him, he loves and dies until he gets that specific coin and pays up. So I think the story is actually a really interesting one. And the way it kind of ends here, I guess full spoilers for this point ahead, but I do recommend at least reading this issue for the Ferryman storyline because I think Scott Snyder did a really good job here. And it's kind of a really dark, tragic story about somebody who made a mistake when they were a kid and it's really come back to haunt them throughout their lives. So I hope there's actually more of this thing, but the way it ends, it feels like it's just going to be kind of a brief thing. So I hope to pick up this one because I'm actually liking this one more than the other Conjuring time. But basically, he comes to the realization he's able to finally track down this coin. He's going to take it and he's going to put it back and pay the toll so he can finally move on with his life and not have to deal with anyone else around him suffering. And the big reveal at the end of it is he's like, oh no, it's a melting pot. I'm never going to get the coin back. And he's like, anywhere you like, so long as you pay. So it seems like the ferryman's been following him this whole time. He's ready to kind of like come to terms with everything he's done and finally move on, but there's a dark twist to the ending of the story. Artwork, I think, is a little stronger here. It really suits the atmosphere and the mood of it all. I like the twist reveal at the end of it. I thought that was kind of cool. And yeah, I definitely did dig this issue overall. Of course, there's some other little advertisements here. They're kind of setting things up for, I guess, there's going to be some crazy satanic cult in Conjuring 3, which, they did mention all the way back to, I'm sure it's going to tie into like the first Annabelle movie and all that too, because I rewatched all the films. So we'll see what happens in that regards, but I assume it's probably all one giant cult that's going on here. I haven't seen the movie, so if you've seen it, please don't spoil it because I'm going to be watching it tomorrow. It's going to be on HBO Max and in theaters, but I plan on seeing this one in theaters because there's just something about seeing a horror film in theaters. It's like more effective to watch the scares and all that. So, but then again, like the last 7 pages of this damn thing are just all advertisements, which is a disappointment to me. I wish it would have just kind of ended there. I'm not sure why all these ads are necessary. Batman Reptilian, this author completely hates Batman, so I don't know why they're writing it. But overall consensus, I did like the Conjuring, The Lover. It just felt like a really fresh story for me because, like I said, I haven't really been reading any real horror comics, so I've just been subjected to kind of the same thing. Like, okay, superhero thing. Just having something a little bit different make me think differently, like have a bit of a different opinion than if I were to say read this kind of stuff all the time. But it felt fresh for me because of what I've been kind of used to reading for a while, at least from DC Comics and all that. But I definitely want to read more. I want to kind of get into more horror comics. So if you've read this issue, what did you think of it? Tell me what you thought of it in the comment section down below. Are there any horror comics that you like to read? If so, please recommend them. I definitely want to go and check some more out because it just felt kind of cool to read some horror stories for once. So I like that because I really love horror. So, and if you're a Conjuring fan, are you excited for the new movie? Did you see it? What did you think of that? So just tell me your thoughts and all that stuff in the comment section down below. If you get the chance to, I recommend picking up the Conjuring, The Lover. It's only going to be a 5-part like miniseries of comics, so we'll see how it all turns out by the end of it. I kind of wish they started releasing this thing a little bit earlier on to really kind of tie into the events of Conjuring 3, because, well, it's going to tie into the events of it, but the movie's going to be out by tomorrow, so you'll have finished this issue. Like, by the time this series is done, the movie will have been out for a few months at that point, so not sure why they released it like the week of, but oh well, I guess. So, yep. All right, that's all I have to say. Be sure to check this thing out. Be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content, hit that bell for notifications. Come back tomorrow as my review on The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It will be out. I also am working on a ranking video of the entire Conjuring universe film series, which will be out hopefully next week. I've already started writing my thoughts on the other films that I rewatch once I see Conjuring 3. I'll obviously add that one to the list and probably give it a rewatch on HBO Max and really kind of like dictate where I want to put it on the list. But yeah, so that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for watching. As always, take care now. Bye bye then, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.